Hello everyone, I am Kyle David V. Atienza. I am a Senior Education Program Specialist handling the Human Resource Development section here in the Department of Education Schools Division Office of Marinduque. As you may have read from my introduction post in our discussion forum, I am also a founder and executive director of a nonprofit organization here in Marinduque, and that's somehow a big portion onto why I am currently pursuing the Master's in Distance Education. I was assigned to report on Module 2, or the development of distance education and related concepts, specifically on the influencing factors of distance education. So for this report, we have the following objectives. First, to describe concepts or terms related to distance education, and second, differentiate distance education from other related concepts. Based on the reports made by my group mates earlier, we can summarize that there are mainly three factors that can influence the development of distance education. The first is the educator or the desire of an entity, whether it's an individual or an educational institution, to give access to education to those who cannot personally attend regular classes. This involves those who are serving in the military. This may also include our detainees who want to pursue greater studies. This may also involve our teachers who are required to travel long distances just to get to an institution with their desired postgraduate programs. From the reports made earlier, some examples of these are the University of London in 1836, which, based on the report, somehow serves as the pilot implementer of distance education. We also have Isaac Pitman, who used correspondence study in 1840 to provide access to education. And of course, we also have the University of the Philippines, Open University, established in 1995. Next, the second factor that influences the development of distance education is the learner or the desire of individuals to learn or get certification for knowledge and skills gained. A great example of this factor is us, the students of the Masters in Distance Education, that despite our busy schedules, all of the things that we have to accomplish in our work or in our lives, we are still pursuing greater study for the benefit of our students or for the benefit of the community. Lastly, we have the medium, or the inventions that led to various ways of communicating between and among individuals, especially those separated by distance. So in the last half of the 20th century, rapid developments took place in mass media. We have from television and radio to synchronous tools like the Zoom and our Google Meet, which are video and audio teleconferencing applications. And of course, we have the internet. In the reports made earlier, the initial medium used for distance education is correspondence or correspondence study, which utilize the telegraph or the postal system. Nowadays, those earlier technologies are not entirely displaced by new ones. We just have a new landscape of how we deliver distance education to our learners. And so again, the three factors that influence the development of distance education are the educator, the learner, and the medium. I just want to give an emphasis to point out the desire of an individual or an educational institution, which serve as a factor for the development of distance education. Shown in our screen is the three objectives of the University of the Philippines Open University. And I want to highlight objective number 2, which states that to develop a system of continuing education for sustaining professional growth and improving technical skills, especially for those who cannot leave their jobs or homes for full-time study. So gaya nga ng nabanggit ko kanina, an example of whom is me, na I live in Marinduque. If I want to attend face-to-face classes in Manila, I have to travel at least 10 hours just to get to Manila and then to travel back to Marinduque after my classes, which I believe would not last for 10 hours. So, mas matagal pa yung mangyayaring biyahe ko kaysa sa itinigil ko sa Manila. So, because of the desire of the University of the Philippines Open University to provide access to education for people like me, I nagde-develop or nag-a-adjust ang ating distance education based from the needs of the learners. Now we will move to the related concepts with distance education. Based from the references that I have used, we have 11 related concepts with distance education, and this includes correspondence study, home study, external studies, online learning, blended learning, and other related concepts, which I'm very sure you have already heard of. First is our correspondence study. This is considered as an old form of distance education because communication takes place through a postal system. Based sa definition na nailagay natin dito, kung isipin natin na parang, ay, mga matatanda na lang ba ang gumagamit ng postal system? It's not to give that viewpoint, but correspondence study is the initial tool used for distance education na gumagamit nga tayo ng postal system. So the student receives learning materials through postal mail, and they send back their assignments and other course requirements through the same system. Habang tumatagal, ang correspondence study ay nakareceive ng questionable reputation. Ito ay dahil sa pagkakaroon ng discrepancies in the postal mail. If you are a teacher in the Department of Education and you use the purpose in the delivery of school forms, yung, for example, is yung ating Form 137 and our Form 138, na if we send the form today, nakakarating pa siya sa pagpapadala natin is sometimes after 2 months pa. So, hindi nagiging practical for our learners yung ganung katagal na proseso in submitting and receiving their course requirements. So, the development in other systems of communication because of this questionable reputation led to the change in terminology of correspondence education to distance education. As you may have heard from the reports made by my group mates earlier, in 1982, the International Council for Correspondence Education changed their name to International Council for Distance Education. Ayan, kasi nga parang nagkaroon ng negative connotation yung term na correspondence study. They have decided to change it to distance education kasi the learning takes place in a distance. Next, we have home study. Major portion of the learning process takes place at home. So, the present use of this term also refers to the system where the students or children and the learning process is assisted by a parent or a personal tutor. So, gaya ng nangyaring distance education modality sa Department of Education, most of our learners undertook home study na napapadalan sila ng learning modules or sometimes ng supplementary learning materials sa kanilang mga bahay or pinipick nila sa school. And then a major part of the learning process takes place within their homes. Luckily for some of our students, they have assistance given to them by their parents or a personal tutor. Next, we have external studies, sometimes referred to as extension classes, and learning takes place outside the educational institution or the campus. An example of this is the drought-tolerant crops extension program conducted by the University of the Philippines, Los Baños in the Ilocos region. So kung iisipin natin, parang yung external studies is hindi siya pasok sa concept of distance education that the teacher and the learner are at a distance. Kasi pag nagko-conduct tayo ng extension classes or extension program, learning takes place primarily in a traditional face-to-face manner. Some of our external studies started as extension programs by different educational institutions. So basta sinabi natin external studies, yung pag-aaral ay nangyayari, kinoconduct siya ng isang educational institution, but it is outside their campus. Gumagamit sila ng ibang lugar outside their campus to conduct these extension classes. Next term is the independent study, where learning process is done largely by the student on their own, guided by a course guide. The modular distance learning undertaken by our students in the basic education level, some of them, unfortunately, underwent independent study kasi nga not everyone has access to tutors, not all parents are knowledgeable enough with the basic concepts stated in the self-learning modules. Another example of which ay yung tinake ko na independent learning program or diploma program here in UPOU. Yun yung Diploma in Science Teaching. Nag-utilize siya ng independent learning. Na meron kaming separate website na doon kami pumupunta, nandun na lahat ng kailangan naming learning materials. We have a course guide. Nandun na din kami nagsasubmit ng aming mga reports. Doon na din kami nagsasagot ng aming mga major examinations. Contrary to what is happening right now in the Masters in Distance Education, we don't have any reporting in the Diploma in Science Teaching kasi nga minsan ako lang yung estudyante dun sa course na yun. And in the independent learning program, there is minimal support provided by the faculty in charge kasi nga most of the learning process must be undertaken by the student himself. Another term that is related to distance education is open learning. So open learning is considered as a perspective on learning rather than a way of delivering learning. Yun yung pinagkaiba niya to distance education. Yung distance education kasi is a manner of delivering learning wherein the teacher and the learner are not on the same space or not on the same time, not meeting on the same time. Ang open learning naman, it's a perspective of learning. Kasi the student is given the option of what, how, and when to learn. The student is given a large degree of control of the learning process. Meron siyang karapatan na makapili kung ano yung una niyang gustong aralin, kung paano niya siya gustong aralin, at kung kailan niya gustong mag-aral. All of the learning materials are given to the student at bahala na si student kung alin yung una niyang gustong basahin, paano niya yung gustong aralin, at kung kailan niya gustong aralin. Kung alin ang gusto niyang aralin, paano niya yun naaralin, at kung kailan niya yun naaralin. The student or the learner are given all the rights when, how, and what to learn. Our next term that is related to distance education is flexible learning. Most of the time, ay napapagpalit natin yung terms na open learning to flexible learning. But in definition, and as compared to flexible learning has limited choices when it comes to what, how, and when to learn. Kung sa open learning, the learner is given all of the possibilities kung alin ang una niyang gustong aralin, kailan niya gustong aralin, at kung paano niya gustong aralin. Sa flexible learning, we have specifics of alin yung dapat mo munang aralin, kailan ka mag-exam, possibly saan ka mag-exam. Merong mga nakaset na standards kung paano yung gagawin ng pag-aaral. Flexible learning is what happened in the previous program that I took, yung nabanggit ko kanina na Diploma in Science Teaching. We are given all of the materials, pero naka-schedule kung kailan kami mag-exam, alin yung dapat naming unang sagutan, alin yung dapat naming unang basahin na reading materials. Ganun siya. So open learning, the student is given all of the choices on what, how, and when to learn. Ang flexible learning naman, your choices on what, how, and when to learn is limited. And those terms are predetermined by the educational institution. Next term that is related to distance education is distributed learning. So based from the term itself, the learning resources are distributed either inside or outside the campus. Distributed learning can be implemented in a conventional classroom setting or yung face-to-face classes or in a distance education environment. Distributed learning, ibig sabihin yung ating mga learning resources ay nakalagay sa iba't ibang lugar. It may be a physical environment. It can also be a resource person na pwede nating lapitan. Nabanggit dito that it can be implemented in a conventional classroom setting. This happens most of the time in public schools wherein si teacher is not the sole provider of information. Binibigyan ni teacher ng pagkakataon ang students to interview personalities that are experts in that field. Students are also sometimes given the opportunity to go to the library or learning resource centers para dun sila makahanap ng information related to the topic. Distributed learning can also include field trips na nagkakameron ng experiential learning experience. Experiential learning yung ating mga bata, nagkakaroon ng experiential learning ang ating mga estudyante para mas mabigyan ng mas malalim na information or kahulugan yung mga inaaral natin na topics. So again, distributed learning, the learning resources are distributed either inside or outside our campuses. Next is online learning. So from the term itself, all learning processes, including references, are done in access to the internet. Also, the communication between the teacher and the student is done through the internet. Online learning, internet. Yun lang yung tatandaan natin na term when it comes to online learning. Itong ginagawa natin ngayon is online learning because we are using the internet. Next, we have e-learning. This is also most of the time interchanged with the term online learning. Pero e-learning ay the learning takes place through the use of electronic devices. That's why we use the term e or electronic learning. But with the different advancements in technology, yung term natin na letter E or the electronic devices can also include the local area network or yung gumagamit tayo ng LAN to access the same information through series of electronic devices still. And we also use a wide area network or again, the internet. E-learning is mostly utilized in computer laboratories in public school na gumagamit tayo ng learning area network na merong isang mother computer and then all of the information na gustong i-disseminate ni teacher dun sa mga computer units ay lumalabas because of the local area network. E-learning electronic devices. Next is M-learning. If we have e-learning for electronic devices, we also have M-learning. So for M-learning, learning takes place through the use of mobile devices and technologies, hence the letter M. So mobile learning. Ano bang pinagkaiba niya when it comes to electronic learning or our e-learning? Si e-learning ay gumagamit ng technologies like the local area network and computer devices. Si M-learning naman ay gumagamit ng mobile devices and this includes our tablets and iPad units. M-learning can also include handheld computers or yung ating mga personal digital assistants. Yung kumari tinanong mo, hey Siri, ganyan. It's an example of M-learning because we are using mobile devices. M-learning has been developed throughout the years to adapt to the mobility of our learners. For example, sa atin, we can also access our learning devices through the use of mobile phones habang tayo ay bumabiyahe sa ibang lugar na hindi na siya limited lang sa magbubukas pa tayo ng computers or gagamit pa tayo ng local area network just to access our learning materials. Next is blended learning. This is a term used mostly in the Department of Education in the past 2 school years. So blended learning uses a combination of multiple approaches to learning. Blended learning, ibig sabihin gumagamit tayo ng at least two modalities when we are delivering our topics to our learners. So it's again a combination of multiple approaches to learning, which constitutes blended learning. So learning in a classroom situation may be blended with learning from internet resources. In here in the schools division of Marinduque, in school year 2021 and 2022, we have utilized blended learning. It's a mixture of limited face-to-face classes, that's one modality, and another is the modular distance learning. So, so gumagamit tayo ng 3 days na face-to-face classes, and then the remaining 2 days are conducted through modular distance learning. So it's blended learning. Nagbe-blend tayo ng dalawang modality to deliver learning sa ating mga estudyante. In the Department of Education, it was specified that blended learning can only occur if this is mixed with face-to-face classes. Kaya gaya ng nabanggit ko kanina, yung conventional type of learning natin na face-to-face, ay pag hinaluan na natin ng internet resources or online resources, kagaya ng mga educational videos, this can already be considered as blended learning. Kasi gumamit na tayo ng online learning, gumamit pa tayo ng face-to-face learning. Ayun, so those are the topics that were assigned to me. Here are my references. And for our points for discussion, first is the DepEd Order number 44, series of 2022, provides that all public elementary and secondary schools must conduct 5-day in-person classes starting November 2 last year. Considering the various distance education approaches that I have mentioned, and also the learning gaps that we have identified in the pandemic years, should the Department of Education look into institutionalizing distance education modalities at the basic education level? Ayan, kasi nabanggit na natin kanina the possible distance education modalities that we can offer, and these were already utilized in the Department of Education during the pandemic. Should DepEd still look into institutionalizing these modalities, considering also the learning gaps that happened during the pandemic? Next, looking into the 3 factors that influence the development of distance education: our learner, our educator, and our medium. Do you think social media platforms can also influence how we deliver education? And in what ways can they influence them? So that's it. That's my report on the influencing factors of distance education and related concepts. I am looking forward into reading your responses to my points of discussion. I am also very much looking forward in answering your points for clarification regarding my report. Again, I am Sir Cal David B. Atienza. Thank you so much.